Hare Krishna. Thank you all for being here. Om Jnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatantvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchat Kalpataro Bhayasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I requested Her Grace Aruddha Mataji to speak first. I begged her million times, and then now she said I have to speak first. So I have to speak because she really refused, and she's caught in the middle of this, and so. And honestly, I don't think I have any qualification to speak on the topic. My journey in relationship with the holy name, that is a topic. So, you should be really well placed in your relationship with the holy name. And I'm not there. I'm still a work in progress, a long way to go. So when I was asked to participate with this topic, time now, yeah. It's supposed to be a discussion, but the way we decided was we are going to say something, and then in the end there will be more, question, interactive discussion type. So when I gave it a thought on this topic, I came to the conclusion that I can participate in it only in one capacity. I'm not an authority on this, that's for sure. So this is more or less like a public introspection for me. So we all have our private introspections. And so now I know I'm in an embarrassing situation. I have to do this public introspection. So you will have to tolerate me. That's where it is. And this is, I have to introspect where I stand with regard to the chanting of the holy name, which is the Yoga Dharma, and it is the Japa meditation. Where do I stand with that? So it is like admitting to you where I stand with that. So it so happened I was reading Kevalashtakam, and I know all of you know about Kevalashtakam. And previously, whenever we hear about this, we were always told that it is written by an unknown poet. And recently I came to know that it is written by Nilakanta Goswami. And it seems that he has written 100 verses, which is a Shatakam. Out of that, the 8 verses that we know, which we call as Kevala Ashtakam. So that's the way it is. So I just wanted to read 2 translations from there. This is for verse number 3 and 4. Actually, verse number 3 is verse number 50 from that 100 verse, and the 4 is verse number 57. So it says, that person is a true preceptor, a true father, a true mother, a true friend, only if they teach one to always remember that the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Then the next one says, there is no certainty when the last breath will come. and put an abrupt halt to all of one's material plans. Therefore, it is wise to always practice chanting from the very childhood. The holy name of Sri Hari is everything. So these two verses, this is what always happens. Krishna just brings something which is visible in front of you. Suddenly, then you start thinking. Then there is more something relatable there. So reading this, I felt extremely grateful. I remembered many good things in my life. Realized how Krishna has blessed me with wonderful great-great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, teachers, friends like yourself, and a most amazing spiritual master who is extraordinarily kind and merciful beyond belief. Every step of the way, constantly there for me. And then there is our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, the entire disciplic succession, Sri Radha Shyama Sundar. Unlimited mercy, unlimited mercy. So my spiritual master, he is my preceptor, my parents, and everyone else. They have done their part super excellent way. They have introduced me to the chanting of the holy name. They have given me everything that is needed to make it perfect. Nothing is missing. And all of you have inspired me. So my public introspection today is, what is it that I have done after receiving so much from my great-great-great-grandparents all the way, now my spiritual master fully supporting me. What have I done with this chanting? So this analysis requires giving you a short background about myself. But this is like it's a vulnerable thing to do. But I guess if I don't say anything about myself, then how can I say about my relationship with the holy names, right? So my great grandfather on my father's side, he used to serve as a priest in a temple. And my parents, they were also devotees of Krishna. My father used to worship Krishna every day in the morning. My grandmother, she used to chant Srimad Bhagavatam every day at home. And my parents, they both worked as government servants. 1947, when India gained independence, they were one of the leaders who worked in the welfare of the women and children's department and starting some cottage industries for creating jobs for people. But they were both devotees of Krishna. And so when my mother came back from work, she will take bath and she used to chant the Mahamantra by walking up and down in the courtyard in the front yard of our house. And she used to walk very fast and she used to chant. And I used to hold her clothes, sari tip, and run behind her. And up and down running as many times as she walked, I used to run behind her. And that is the first remembrance of my hearing the chanting of the holy name without understanding the significance of it, really. And then I heard from my father and my grandmother reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, and there used to be a tulasi plant on an elevated platform in the front courtyard, and we were asked to light a lamp, and we were asked to sit down and chant the mantra, Mahamantra. And all of this facility was there for us. And there was no electricity those days, and so there was an ethereal atmosphere. Just like how sometimes the sound, sight, smell, and atmosphere, it just lingers in your brain, so it never grows out of your mind at all. And so Krishna was the center of everything, because there still is a Parthasarathi Krishna temple just next to our house. Everything was centered around that Krishna. And in course of time, Udupi Krishna played a very, very important, significant role, defining role in my life. And not only Udupi Krishna, but the sannyasis of Udupi temple were inspirational in my life I feel that my connection with ISKCON came through with me in many ways, and I am still trying to take it to the next level. And it is taking its own time, so it is still a work in progress. So in this context, I would say something stood out for me and gave me an answer to the problem of my slow progress. What is the cause of this? So this was a quote from His Holiness Sachinandana Swami. This resonated with me very much. And this one, in this quote, Sachinandana Swami says, "When will I stop offering you broken names? Because my love is still divided between you and the world. When will I stop offering you broken names? Because my love is still divided between you and the world." This thing, my love is still divided between you and this world, is like, it always hammers in my heart. Because as soon as somebody calls me, I have to answer their phone call. As soon as somebody texts me, I have to do that. Am I doing that with Krishna's holy name? It just is like, it breaks your heart when you think about that. And so, then after that, I understood this is one of my problems, and I was 100% convinced about it. And in course of time, that among many other millions of things, I also understood that one of the other problems is problem created by Lord Brahma himself. In the third canto Srimad Bhagavatam, in the very beginning of creation, he said he has put that 5 layers of ignorance, right? Tama, Moha, Mahamoha, Tamishra, Andha Tamishra. And that is covering. And on top of that, I have this divided love. So put together, that combination is not a good thing at all. So then I was like, I have to find a solution to this problem. So what is the solution to the problem? That is where I fell in love with the Hari Bhakti Vilas verse. This one, what Maharaj said today. So the verse, Manas Samharanam Saucham Maunam Mantrartha Chintanam Avyagratva Manirveda Japa Sampatti Hetava. This verse was really, really, really very powerful for me. And so today morning, Maharaj spoke about Manas Samharanam, concentration of the mind. And I was feeling deeply that it is about engaging our mind in Krishna's service. So in the context of Bhakti Yoga, chanting of the mantra and coming to a point of total submission. So in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, even though the Yoga Sutra techniques are quite interesting, there is one aspect which Patanjali describes. It is called as Ishvara Pranidhana. That means that it is total submission to Ishvara, Krishna. Submission, that's what it is. So there is a beauty in that. And the beauty of that is, it brings about the grace of the Lord. And ultimately the Bhakti Samadhi is attained. It brings about the grace of the Lord effortlessly, because ultimately it is imparted by Krishna himself without any sweating on our part. And that's the beauty of it. And then Shaucham, cleanliness, external cleanliness and internal cleanliness. And I felt very strongly about this topic also, because one can purify one's mind by chanting the mantras. I mean, even in our deity worship procedure, detailed Achaman procedure, and Buddha Shuddhi prayers, there are so many mantras available for purification of the mind. Along, of course, naturally one has to purify externally as well. So Mantrartha Chintanam, Maharaj spoke a lot about it today. Dwelling upon the mind, dwelling upon the meaning of this mantra. Interestingly, Patanjali speaks about that as well. And he says, Japastad Artha Bhavanam Japa. Japastad Artha Bhavanam Japa. That means by chanting the mantra in a devotional mood. So mantra enters into the mind. Maharaj talked about that. Mantra in the mind, mind in the mantra. And that has to happen to the exclusion of all other subject matters, which was my primary problem, my attraction to all of you. So Yoga Sutra, in fact, it focuses on discussion of yoga in the context of psychology of the mind and realization of the soul. But Bhakti Yoga practice is not about realization of the soul, it is about loving Krishna. And therefore, Bhagavatam says it is Sabija Yoga, it is living yoga. And then there is Avyagratvam, there should be no haste. When we do things in a haste, it breaks our relationship of love with Krishna. If you love somebody, you take the time to do that. You don't just break it. You have to be patient if you love someone. And so by doing this in a haste, we are losing the adhara. And adhara, or respect for Krishna. I think Maharaj will be speaking on that topic next, the respect. And then there is the anirvidham, non-dejection. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu speaks about that. When we are full of lamentation, it is all about ourselves. When we are happy and we are trying to serve Krishna, it is about Krishna. So there is no room for lamentation in this process. So with all these things, these 5 practices in this verse, it is actually the counteracting the ignorance, the layers of ignorance that is placed upon the living entities. And I constantly try to remind myself about this and don't go under the water. You need to keep your head above the water and continuously strive. So this one topic here is about Maunam, which is silence. And I will just close this with a story on the silence. Silence itself it's not just keeping quiet. And this is a story of Lokanatha Goswami and his disciple Narottam Das Thakur. They were both chanting japa in Vrindavan with a very focused attention. And you have heard a lot about Lokanatha Goswami and Narottam Das Thakur. Imagine such great personalities sitting and chanting with focused attention. No distraction, nothing in Vrindavan. And here comes a Brajabasi. And Brajabasis are loud, like me, Mostly it is like making too much noise. And so he came shouting and asking for, I'm so thirsty, I need water. And these 2 devotees were chanting. He was not going away at all. And then Narottam Das Thakur felt, my guru is chanting, Lokanath Goswami, I need to stop this. And so he finally decided to get up and go and take the water and give it to him. And so this person left. And then Narottam Das Thakur came back and he continued his chanting and everything. And after the japa session was finished, Lokanath Goswami got up and he said to Narottam Das Thakur, you are not fit to live in Braja. You need to leave this place. The reason was, this was a one-time instruction. It was not like now we can say anything about this. Like, a Brajabasi comes. Are we not supposed to respect the Brajabasi and all those things? Narottam Das Thakur was not kicked out of Vrindavan. Lokanath Goswami said, you are not fit to be here. You better leave. It was a clear-cut one-time instruction. That is, when you are doing japa, let the whole world collapse. Don't pay any attention to that. That's the meaning of that. And so that is exactly Maunam. And it's not just keeping quiet. And so anyway, these are just the principles. And I know that all of you are such amazing, wonderful devotees who have so much experience in chanting, and I shouldn't be the one sitting here and giving any class on this, but this is just a public introspection, as I said. So that's all my role here. So with that, I'm going to pass this on to Aruddha Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. This was such a wonderful, outpouring of the heart from Premananda Mataji. I was amazed. She calls herself totally unqualified, but you can see behind what she is today, there's a whole, layers of deep practice and devotion and surrender to spiritual master. So really, we should really give her another applause, a good one. Thank you. I knew her speaking first was set the tone for me, and make me more, worthwhile and reflective. So anyway, I decided to write my piece. Like she said, it's a public interest, display. It's a very difficult thing to really, I didn't realize till I actually had to do it. And being very shy by nature, it was very difficult, So anyway, so here is my little thing. A little history, like Mataji gave a little history, so a little bit about how I came to this journey. So we were in Los Angeles for about a year when my husband, Anantarupa Prabhu, got laid off from work. The company went bankrupt due to financial issues. About 6 months later, he found a job at Hewlett-Packard, a multinational corporation with headquarters in Boise, Idaho. We found ourselves in a remote place with no temple or devotee association. It was then that we decided to start a center to get some like-minded association. Imagine I was in Los Angeles with so many people, so many devotees, such a vibrant temple, going out on book distribution every day. I mean, it was just so ecstatic. And suddenly one day we found ourselves in this nowhere. I mean, in 1982, you can imagine what Boise was like. It was just farmland, literally farmland. There was nothing there. It's grown so much. Anyway, so it was quite a shock. So for the following 25 years, we struggled to run a center which later became a mid-sized temple. We also opened a restaurant, Govinda's. We had dreams and youthful energy. So we worked hard. My husband had his job at Hewlett-Packard, and so a lot of the services fell on me. Trying to develop a core group of devotees to help with our project was not so easy as we thought. There were challenges, some of them difficult and seemingly impossible. One of the biggest challenges was to find the time to chant our rounds attentively, hearing and reading the scriptures. We found ourselves with an overload of services due to our over-enthusiasm. I found it difficult to keep up with my rounds, but nevertheless somehow did them. I remember folding clothes with one hand and chanting loudly with the other hand, praying earnestly to Krishna to accept my not-so-attentive chanting. Frankly, my journey with the holy name did not even exist. It was for all practical purposes mechanical, but a lot of times a cry out to Krishna for help. My life was always in a crisis, some problem or the other. Preaching was number one focus for me as I realized that the immediate necessity was a strong core group of devotees who can assist and bring more people. Then, of course, the altar service had to be kept up with Mangal Arati services daily, as well as cooking twice a day. So like one visiting devotee told us, Krishna made us dance, and we danced. We had the restaurant on Fridays and Saturdays, the Sunday feast, Wednesday night program, deity worship, outreach preaching programs, homeschooling, sadhana, cultivation of new devotees, which took many hours a day, offering them prasadam and training them in devotional service. These were young American girls and boys who were eager to learn. We reached out to them and practically adopted them. Srila Prabhupada says that chanting is exactly a genuine cry by the child for the mother. Mother Hara helps in achieving the grace of the Supreme Father Hari or Krishna, and the Lord reveals himself to such a sincere devotee. But what does it mean, chanting Hare Krishna like a child? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram, that I'm fallen. We are fallen in this material world. We are in this material condition. So like a mother, when she sees her child has fallen on the ground, she lifts him up and embraces him. So when we are chanting Hare Krishna, we are crying out to Krishna and saying, I'm stuck in this horrible place. It is not a place that I like. Please take me out of here. We want Krishna to reach out to us and bring us close to him, to lift us up from the material platform to the spiritual platform. We are looking to him, reaching out with our hearts to be with him. Crying for Krishna inspires feelings of yearning, eager longing for the Lord, which is the price for divine entry. Gaur Govinda Maharaj said in one of his classes, "This is crying before Krishna, O Nanda Tanuja, son of Nand Maharaj. I am your Kinkara, your servant. Somehow or the other, I have fallen here in this dreadful ocean of material existence, and I have been drowning from time immemorial. But I want to serve you. How can I serve you? How can I become a speck of dust at your lotus feet? Please help me. Just cry. Without the help of sadhu, you cannot approach Krishna. You cannot utter Krishna's name." Gaur Govinda Swami then explains as to who is a sadhu. A sadhu is one who sees Krishna everywhere, and he who has Krishna and who has bound up Krishna in his heart with a rope of love. One should develop greed for this sadhu jana, this association of sat sadhu, premi bhakta. The shishya or sadhaka should always cry for Guru Kripa, the causeless mercy of the Guru. Unless you cry for it, you cannot get it. For example, when the child cries, the mother runs, thinking, "Oh, my child is crying." The child cannot be pacified by anything without the mother's presence. Because she is engaged in performing household duties, the mother may give the child a toy or a doll to play with. But the child would throw down the toy or doll and cry and cry. So unless you cry, how can you get that mercy? This crying is required. Karuna na hoile kandia kandia prana na rakhibo ara. Therefore we sing this song. We must cry and cry for the mercy of Guru. Unless you cry, how can you get it? Those who have cried have received mercy. Kapil Muni, in his instruction to his mother, says that the same attachment that we have for mundane things, if applied to a sadhu, opens the door for liberation. The symptoms of a sadhu is that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemy, peaceful, abides by the scriptures. All his characteristics are sublime. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service. He renounces family acquaintances for the sake of the Lord. Engaged constantly in chanting about me, the sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are filled with the Lord. O my mother, these are the qualities of great sadhus. You must get attachment to such sadhus, for this gives up material attachment. Be in the association of devotees, there is great satisfaction. In other words, attachment to a sadhu will invoke the mercy of the Lord, and our chanting and connection with him improves. I remember that whenever we felt that things were closing on us, miraculously Krishna made arrangements for a sadhu to visit us and give his causeless mercy. Serving a sadhu is so blissful, nothing compares to that. Mercy overflows and stays. You develop a taste for devotional service. Recently, Madhav Prabhu visited us in Naperville and did a workshop on Nam Yagya for 2 hours. His soulful, pure chanting brought many of us to tears. Now we have such a wonderful opportunity for the next few days to immerse ourselves in hearing about the holy name from His Holiness Romapat Swami Maharaj, whose classes, seminars, and retreats have helped us to go deeper into our relationship with Krishna. His association is so purifying for me. His intense attraction for Krishna and his pastimes has taken us to a higher level of consciousness. My journey in a relationship with the holy name became deeper when I started to read Srimad Bhagavatam with my children. It gave us association with the advanced personalities in the Srimad Bhagavatam who had an intimate relationship with Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam can be best taught and understood in layers. As we advance, we go deeper and deeper. For us, it was a joyful experience where we found answers to many questions and explanations of difficult spiritual concepts through analogies and examples. We learned the art of thoughtful and compassionate thinking. Prabhupada's purports are his deep realizations and ecstasies, and by studying them, we get a little taste of that ecstasy in a conditional state. Prabhupada said that Srimad Bhagavatam gives all knowledge completely. It gives us love of God. The more our relationship with Krishna is established, the more our chanting becomes deeper. I realized that the holy name, which was simply a name or just letters when I first started chanting, was beginning to develop into some attraction for Krishna. that lovable person that I came to know in the pages of this sacred literature. Gradually, my attraction deepened, and I tried to grab any opportunity to hear Krishna Katha. Just like we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how the Anta Leela does not end with the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya from this world, but rather we hear how Lord Chaitanya is lost in ecstasy of feelings of love for Krishna. He is in his internal mood, fulfilling the internal reason of his advent, to taste the love that Srimati Radharani feels for Krishna. This is the goal of chanting, to experience pure love for Radha and Krishna. Another benefit of reading Srimad Bhagavatam is that we gradually became detached. We get a sense that we are the soul, not the body. This consciousness is very helpful when we are trying to do good rounds and connect with the holy name. Our absorption in Krishna and his pastimes helps us to tolerate material miseries and puts us on a transcendental platform for developing attraction for Krishna. After reading Srimad Bhagavatam to some extent and teaching it to my sons, I desired to give this knowledge, meager that it was, to others, especially to children and youth. I taught about 100 children every week in groups of 10 and 12. With 2 teenage groups, we finished the entire Bhagavatam in just 5 years. Just to experience a young mind becoming attracted to Krishna was the most rewarding experience of my life. Krishna had taken birth in their hearts, and as they went deeper into the philosophy, using their critical thinking and reasoning skills, I have realized over the years that unless children study Prabhupada's books carefully and strengthen their intelligence through Srimad Bhagavatam, their other devotional activities may not be enough to maintain their faith and identity as devotees, particularly as they grow older and face the temptations that material life offers. Hearing, reading, and teaching about these pastimes year after year helped me to make a connection between the holy name and the Lord himself. Chanting the holy name became deeper. Remembrance of Krishna's pastimes and his qualities became easier and natural. I was happy and enthusiastic. I have a long way to go to experience pure love of God, but the study of Srimad Bhagavatam gave me a start, a humble beginning in my journey in relationship with the holy name. Then again, good chanting comes from good sadhana and morning program. The rounds are better, more attentive chanting. As we sing the prayers in front of the deities, we get realizations that Krishna and his holy name are non-different. For me, what has helped is the recitation of the 10 offenses every morning. As we recite the offenses, we get a chance to meditate on them and do better japa. Recently, I've been working on the 10th offense of being inattentive while chanting and maintaining material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Chanting with the children is also a great way to develop a relationship with the holy name. We sat together and chanted every day. I would try to inspire them and tell them how Krishna is dancing on their tongue if they do attentive chanting. They would be fascinated. Then we did deity worship together. All these activities made our chanting deeper. After all, when we serve Krishna, he is no longer an imagination. He is real, our dearmost friend, whom we can learn to serve and love him. Keeping Krishna in the center of our lives really helped in our chanting. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, deity worship, observing festivals, cooking and cleaning the temple, outreach preaching, prison programs, association with trans devotees, all was so helpful in developing our overall mood of Krishna consciousness. Recently, I was reading and meditating on Canto 10, Chapter 49, Akrura's mission in Hastinapur. A very instructive chapter for parents. In this chapter, we hear about Akrura visiting Hastinapur on the advice of Krishna and Balram to check on Dhritarashtra and his sons, how they were treating the Pandavas. Akrura spent several months in Hastinapur, and he came to the conclusion that Dhritarashtra was conspiring with his sons to get rid of the Pandavas. He was not willing to change his mentality through good counsel. Akrura's conversation with Dhritarashtra is very meaningful. First, Akrura reminds him of his responsibility as a king, how he must treat Pandavas fairly, give up his envy. People will speak highly of him. However, if he continues in this way, he will suffer sinful reactions. Although Dhritarashtra was unique in the sense that he understood that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that he ultimately is the cause for liberation or one's going to hell, he spoke transcendental philosophy. He could see that misfortune awaited him for his sinful activities, yet he admits that he is not able to give up his attachment to his son Duryodhan, who was envious of Krishna. We can ponder the result of such weakness separate from Krishna. Dhritarashtra had to witness through Sanjaya the merciless killing of his sons by Bhima, or rather merciful, we may say. All that he had worked for, plotted and committed so many crimes to get the throne secured for his son was destroyed. So by reading Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting the holy names, all good qualities come naturally and one realizes the proper way to live one's life. So one of the lessons we learn in this beautiful chapter is that our attachment for our children, unless it is directed with Krishna in the center, brings suffering. The same attachment, if directed towards Krishna, brings benefits, both temporary and permanent. So I'll stop here because I think I'm taking too much time from Krishna Smarana. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Should I hold it or is it? Oh yeah, I can reach it. I think so. Can the arm, is it bothersome for you? Yeah, that's sorry. It's not in front of Premananda. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just do the invocation prayers because I'm very accustomed to doing that, even though Premananda kindly did it as the start for this panel. So, Om Jnana-Timirandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utak Parakamlam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Bhagavatam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padansa Gana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapsa Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpataribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Padaswami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the topic was and is my journey in relationship with the holy name. So by chanting this transcendental vibration, we can cleanse away all misgivings within the heart. So the basic principle of all such misgiving is this false consciousness that I'm the Lord, or I guess the female version, the Lord of all that I survey. And this is what Srila Prabhupada writes in a very nice compilation of his writings, chanting Hare Krishna. So this consciousness of seeing oneself as the Lord of all that one surveys is analyzed as such. When one actually looks at the scriptures, one sees that the analysis is that actually one is a very fallible being because one is in direct contact with the material world. Just by virtue of that, one is fallible. So Jiva Bhuta, as opposed to being in a state of oneness or in unity with Lord Krishna, so there is disunity
in one's connection with Lord Krishna. And this is a distinction that Lord Krishna makes. He says, and this is from Bhagavad Gita 15:16, he says, there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. And in the material world, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. So this understanding of oneself, being in a state of disunity with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is closely connected to trying to look for the means that allows for that connection to be made. And in addition, the connection clearly requires an approach that moves the consciousness into a more subservient direction. So there's a serious shift in thinking that has to take place. It's quite a serious shift. And Lord Chaitanya, he describes that shift in thinking. So this is what it actually, one's thinking should look like. So here's a description by Lord Chaitanya. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. So that's the ideal state of thinking. So this shift in thinking, taken into account, Krishna having made this distinction between beings in the spiritual world and those in the material world, that everyone is fallible. The shift in thinking from seeing oneself as master of all that one surveys is having humility. So it means that chanting is accompanied with service, because that's how the consciousness has to shift, in a mood of devotion to the Lord. So that devotional service, such that one genuinely wants to connect with the Supreme Lord, it allows for good qualities to start to develop within oneself. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, the 18th chapter, the 12th verse, it states that all the good qualities of knowledge develop within one who has approached and reached the devotional service of the Lord. And that was his Yati Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvar Gunai Sattva Samasate Sura. So that shift in thinking, that picture that's painted by Lord Chaitanya, that humility is in fact called by Krishna an item of knowledge. And this beginning of transcendental life, it's of having humility comes through accepting a spiritual master. So even that moment when one accepts a spiritual master, that humility is present. And it gets accompanied with an understanding. And it may be theoretical, but there is an understanding that actually one doesn't have to be anxious to receive honor from others, because one is holding that understanding that honor is just in relation to the body. It's not in relation to one's actual being, meaning the Atma. So one is receiving spiritual enlightenment at that time of accepting a spiritual master and taking initiation. And indeed, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Anjalila 4, there's this statement: at that time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as himself. So it's very extraordinary. One's already well on one's way. So the yearning for honor, it may, however, rear its head. And because naturally Sharampara Swami, even in responding to questions, he points to this fact that there's that conditioning, the learning that one is already carrying, those impressions in the mind. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes about this, and in Manaha Shiksa, yes, and he puts it that there's three ways in which one starts to look for honor. One is one hopes to be regarded as a highly religious person. That's the first one. The second one is that one hopes to be regarded as a generous person. And the third one is that one wants to be regarded as a sinless devotee. So, in terms of the first one, of hoping to be regarded as a highly religious person, there's a term that's used by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he says it's Paranishtita Sadhaka. He desires acclaim as a great devotee, as one with clear spiritual understanding, as one who is detached from all materialism. And the devotee that wants to be viewed as a sinless devotee is called the Nirapeksha devotee, or renunciate. He thinks the honor lies in being considered pure and renounced, or as having understood all the esoteric conclusions of the scriptures. And these cravings for honor, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, have to be rooted out. And they have to be eradicated. Otherwise, there's an ongoing deceit. So one may be chanting the Maha Mantra, but there's actually a deceitfulness that's underlying everything. So the deceit of the Nirapeksha Sadhaka, he adopts the dress of a renunciate. And he regards other sadhakas as inferior due to false ego, or he may even keep contact with materialistic persons with the intention of collecting funds instead of actually going to the temple. I spend time every morning in the temple, so I get to see a whole array of people. And this is not an uncommon one, strangely enough, that there are persons who are needing to present themselves in that kind of way. So anyway, I'm truly appreciating Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing. Now, Srila Rumpa Swami, he points to a certain statement of Srila Prabhupada that shows how to bring about a shift in thinking. So this is that statement. One cannot be falsely puffed up and still expect to make progress in spiritual life. Rather, one must learn to accept his constitutional position of Krishna's tiny servant. Then Krishna is pleased to reveal himself to such a devotee, and the devotee becomes more and more engaged in rendering transcendental service to the Lord. This was from a letter of Srila Prabhupada in 69. So on a personal level, because that's the topic, this acceptance of being Lord Krishna's tiny servant by constitution has required a particular mentality of maintaining humility. So since humility means not having anxiety to be honored by others, there's a great test that comes when one is directly dishonored. So this is actually a great blessing. I've come to understand this. It's a great blessing to be dishonored. And the blessing is that one can truly hold on to the fact that nothing and no one can move one off the path, that one is factually a small servant of Lord Krishna. Nothing can move one off that path. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives a particular thought. So remembering that a shift in thinking has to happen, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives the thought that one can actually introduce to one's mind to help this shift in thinking. And one can express to one's mind, and this is Srila Bhaktivinoda giving a fantastic example of how one can speak to the mind. I am a servant of Krishna. I am poor and do not possess anything. Krishna is my all in all. So that's to help with when dishonor comes. So that's from Vani Vaibhava, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing. So this same kind of thought also comes into play with surrendering to the holy name. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the kind of thing one needs to actually say to the mind to help the mind. Krishna is my only protector. Nothing nor anyone else can protect me. And that's again from Vani Vaibhava, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So a very interesting point is raised by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur regarding this dealing with whatever propensities are in the heart. And I've been looking at this one of, wanting honor or even being dishonored, how it actually plays itself out. So he naturally, anger could surface from being dishonored. And one uses one's anger, this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says how to deal with it. Because remember, one's actually trying to shift one's consciousness to that ideal picture that Lord Chaitanya has presented where there's humility. So this is how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says one can deal with it. And he says, one uses one's anger against those that are envious of Krishna and the Vaishnava. So you're not going to be using it against another Vaishnava. It's against those that are envious of Vaishnavas. So because this is a personal journey, and I've had to look at this, because naturally through one's life there are occasions of being dishonored, so it's a fantastic opportunity to do this work. And so I can say that a closer scrutiny of being dishonored in the past and those records that are in the mind, they have to be opened up. And with intelligence, one can actually use and give the proper support to that younger self that's present in the mind and that's holding this possible anger of having been dishonored or mistreated somewhere in the past. Because just the fact that it's happening in the present and one experiences some emotion, that emotion has to be looked at in a more deep way. And the more deep ways mean that the younger selves didn't resolve something. So it's giving appropriate acknowledgement to a younger self, having the right to be angry with the attempts of others to be unkind to one. So, and this is a fantastic exercise because one is acting as the parental figure, giving support to one's younger self, who was the angry self. So just by doing that, it helps to give this result of separating oneself from the materialistic association that was present when one was a younger person. So, and with materialistic others that were part of one's life. So what happens is that anger transforms into the tolerance of a tree. This is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So you can see how just doing such a simple exercise, I've put this into practice myself, and this was the topic of one's personal journey with the holy name. It actually is helping one to move to that ideal picture presented by Lord Chaitanya of becoming tolerant. So this was one method that I've employed through the good fortune of being able to serve the holy name. And so this journey with the holy name has brought me to this interesting juncture of having a deeper insight into both humility and tolerance while being more deeply embracing, with my intelligence, the position of being Lord Krishna's very tiny servant. So thank you very much. That was some insight into the topic. So we'll end here. Thank you. So I have the microphone here. So we have 25 minutes. Thank you for keeping. This is a well-trained educator. The eyes on the clock. 25 minutes for anything to come our way. Something that's on the mind. Some queries that have arisen. Some deeper thoughts to expand the discussion.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for enlivening us with your personal experiences and teaching from Shastras. You all are very exemplary for all of us who are pretty new because our faith is thriving on yours. So you are guiding post for us. When we don't understand Maharaj, we try to understand you. So thank you very much for enlivening us today. I had two quick questions. So like Krsnarcana Mataji, as you explained, what I understood is by when we tell ourselves like this, I mean, in one sense, like Maharaj mentioned in the morning, that we train our mind. So sometimes I feel that definitely that works, but so much is accumulated probably, for many births, who knows. So that feels like a mental adjustment sometimes, and I don't understand whether it will be sustainable or not. So that's my one question, and second question is to Aruddha Mataji, but if you would like to answer this first.
So you were expressing a doubt that it may be possible to sustain speaking to one's mind or retraining one's mind.
Not exactly doubt, because it is coming from a very superior personality. So, and they are telling this by their experience. So this is true. But just taking case by case basis. So I'm talking about myself.
Well, it's true. One can actually think, is it really possible to retrain the mind? Because after all, one becomes aware through chanting that there's a certain pattern in the mind. There's certain known habits that become visible through chanting. So indeed, how are you going to actually change those habits, or how are you going to actually even think to redirect the mind or drop those habits or that pattern that's already there? Well, I can say that one most excellent means is to begin by praying to the deities. So one reveals one's mind to the deity.
Can you repeat, Madhi? Sorry.
Yes. One excellent means to begin is by way of praying to the deities and revealing one's mind to the deities. Because when one's in front of the deities, it's very transparent what one's frame of mind is. So one can actually express to the deity, these are my thoughts. And naturally, one is still, by virtue of the fact that one is chanting, one can still be somewhat detached and observe those thoughts. That's why one is able to express it. So one can actually pray to the deity, one's dear deity, that please allow me to shift this thinking to whatever the more desirable thinking is. And through constant practice in this kind of way, there's a reliance on Krishna's help. And that reliance on Krishna's help gives one the confidence to actually embark on that journey of retraining the mind. And, years and years of practice produces a sense of dependence on Krishna. And one remembers through the day and the choices one makes that one has appealed to Krishna for his help. So then there's strength to actually go more difficult routes, to break some pattern.
Thank you so much. That makes sense. Actually, yeah, we hear it many times, but when it comes from, so it sits deeper inside. So thank you very much. Aruddha Mataji, you mentioned about attachment to the sadhu. And I was thinking that how does that attachment looks like? Because in our stage, like in my stage, externals predominate. Externals are dominating over the internal depth of personality. So that might happen with the spiritual authorities, devotees, even Krishna. So external appearance dominates many times. Or their externalities, whatever. So attachment, how does it looks like? I mean, definitely you're talking about spiritual attachment. So can you please elaborate on that?
Attachment to sadhu basically means sitting and hearing from him and serving him. So these two things are very powerful. Even if we don't really understand everything, and externally we may see things when we should be looking at it more spiritually, it doesn't matter. Because just the fact that we are serving a sadhu and we are hearing, the process is starting to work. And as you progress and as you advance and you read Shastra, then you realize how powerful this is. And from where we were and where we've come to is only because of this association. I mean, among all the things, this is the most powerful factor for a process of good chanting, is sadhu association. I mean, it is the most important thing. So, and I was feeling the same. I mean, we had sadhus coming and going, right? And we were just serving them, and then gradually you develop a taste for serving them. As you serve them, you actually enjoy that. Even though physically it may be sometimes hard, but you actually develop a taste for it.
Yes, Mataji. I mean, this is very assuring, definitely. What happens in this process sometimes that usually you are doing the so-called right things. I mean, whatever is instructed, you try. But there is a constant struggle going on. Hey, whether I'm doing something wrong, why it is not progressing. I mean, why my heart is not feeling that yena atma suprasidati feeling or something. So what to do about that? I mean, as you said, we should keep doing these things, and we usually keep also doing these things. But why we always feel that it is insufficient and we should be doing something more?
That's a nice feeling to have, that you're feeling that it's not enough, And also their, chastisement or a lack of, proper reception or whatever, it's very good for us. I got chastised so many times. I mean, I got chastised for, not so good cooking, I got chastised for just about everything. I mean, we were really chastised, So, and we would go back to our room and cry, but it's a different type of crying. It's not like a crying on the mundane end. It really purifies the heart, and you end up just becoming more attached to that person who has actually chastised you. See, it's just like Mother Yashoda chastising Krishna. There's so much deep attachment there. So, I think that's.
Thank you, Mataji. Hearing that was very hope-giving.
Yeah. There's one story that I have that just to show the power of the holy name, how it works, especially when I've been talking so much about children. My father, my oldest son, Radhikaraman, he had gone to Mayapur and he was coming back. He was going to Prayag, where my grandparents lived, and it's right on the way, so he wanted to stop there. And that night when he showed up there, that very night, my father left his body. It was a sudden heart attack, and my son, he was like 18 years old or something, and it was such a shock because he was just losing breath, and and it was like 3:00 in the morning. My father would get up early in the morning and chant his rounds and everything, and as he was falling down due to the pain and everything, my son woke up and he realized something was happening, and he took my father in his lap, his head on his lap, and started chanting in his ear. So I'm saying just that hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and associating with sadhus had such a powerful effect that he knew he had no experience of what it means to be dying, but immediately he could understand that I need to do this to him. And he even understood to that extent that he separated my mother from him and told her to go away into the next room and start praying to Lord Nrsingadev. He removed everybody from the scene. He got my father's head on his lap and started chanting in his ear. So I'm saying that it's this chanting of the holy name and training our children. I mean, among all the things that the essence of our education for our children is giving them the significance of chanting for the holy name of the Lord. Because you see how Srila Prabhupada, when he first came to this country, the people, the hippies who were there, they were not willing to accept the 4 regulative principles. They said, what is this? I'm not going to give up illicit sex and this and that. And what did he say? He says, among all his instructions, the chanting of 16 rounds was the most important. So when they chanted and chanted, then they said, oh, I need to do this. You see? So by giving our children Srimad Bhagavatam and chant and the significance of this holy name, it's very powerful, And this comes through, and this was mainly due to the association of sadhus. Every 2 months we had sadhus coming and going in Boise, and just association, because we cannot give that type of association. People who have given up everything in their life, all family ties, and the sadhus have this special penchant for children. They know, they know that these children are very special. So that's why the significance of sadhus is very important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for giving this opportunity to ask the question. I have a realization, maybe more than a question, but how do you keep the sweetness in your chanting alive? It almost feels like it becomes mechanical, and that becomes like your body language. And when you have children around you, in your family, and they're seeing you chanting, I fear that they get the message that it's more like a to-do thing for the mom, and then she's chanting, don't disturb her kind of thing. How do you keep it as a sweet atmosphere of love, and so that the child can learn from your body language also? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, japa is not an easy thing to introduce to our children. It's one of those things, her children will say, I'll do kirtan, but not japa. Don't tell me to do japa, right? And it's difficult for them, right? So keeping up the sweetness, one thing that I tried is to always chant with them. I would never let them chant alone. So that's also something, when they have association of their own parents or other devotees, then it becomes easier for them to develop. Because Prabhupada spoke a lot about chanting japa for our children. He said it should not be given to them as a punishment or as a reward. In other words, we don't say that you've been a bad boy today, go and chant 4 rounds, or 1 round, Anyway, these things were being done in the Gurukulas there. Devotees were trying all different ways to get the children to chant japa. So Prabhupada would write letters and correct them. Don't do that. Because our relationship with Krishna is voluntary. Krishna is a person, I'm a person. And the relationship has to be, voluntary. I want to be Krishna conscious, right? So that's one thing, is don't give it as a punishment, like a scary thing, and also don't give it as a reward. You've been a good child, you've chanted 4 rounds, here's an ice cream, like that kind of thing. So anyway, so take up precautions, in terms of using it like a very sweet thing, a positive thing, for our children. Very, very positive. Okay.
Something to that is, Mataji is the expert in, because she has trained 2 wonderful children in Krishna consciousness, and she has done so many seminars. Her whole life is about training children. So what I'm saying is just my personal experience, is that every parent you be who you are, because your sincerity in your practice of Krishna consciousness, whether it is chanting or reading or whatever it is, as long as that is genuine and you are doing it sincerely, then whether it is a child or a friend or whoever is observing you will also get the feel for it. Mataji said that we cannot force it upon anybody. Maharaj says many times that you cannot force on your children to become, whatever it is that you are believing in, unless they believe in it themselves. But as long as there is a sincere practice in our life, that itself is inspirational for anyone, including children who comes in contact with you. You may not know it at that point. Like I remember now the value of me hearing my mother chanting after my life is coming to an end. And I was introduced to that at that time. I didn't realize it, but took a long time to come to the point of realization that someone very important in your life has contributed towards that. And I'm seeing that with the next generation and the generation after that. In my own life, I'm seeing that. So you can sincerely practice, and I'm sure the children will appreciate that.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful sessions. This question is for Premananda Mataji. In this role that you are in right now, with all the multiple duties, responsibilities, and everything, and you mentioned about how there are so many distractions that come along, but of course you are, trying to do the quality chanting too. So how do you balance that? That is my question. Like, what could be some of the practical steps in order to do that? Because in a way, you are also serving this congregation. That is also service to Krishna. So I was just trying to understand better.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's why I said I am a work in progress. I have not perfected chanting, and I shouldn't be even sitting here talking on this topic. But yes, and that's why Sachinandan Maharaj's quote appeals to me so much. My love to you, it is divided, because I have all these 200 of you calling me with your problems. And so I immediately jump to answer the phone. This is my problem. I do that, that's one thing I do, as though my life depend on that phone, which is big problem. But I guess the one thing I would say is practice makes it perfect, which is what Maharaj has been telling us again and again. And so the time that is spent with Krishna, which is at the time of chanting, it is between you and Krishna and nobody else. So there is like a clear-cut demarcation line there. So that's why this maunam, that part of that verse in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it's very important that where there is love, you don't want to break the love for Krishna by being distracted. Where there is love, there is respect. And that respect will be broken if attention goes somewhere else in the middle of chanting. So again, engaging the mind in a conscious way, learning to withdraw it as well as staying there. And the point Maharaj made about mind in mantra, mantra in the mind, this is not just talk, this is something one has to put into practice. So at least making an effort to do so. And it just cannot remain as a superficial effort. And Krishna sometimes gives you that feeling of connection. Here and there, you get a glimpse of nothing else. You are not going to allow anything or anybody to come into that territory. And that can sound like very selfish, but there has to be some selfishness, otherwise I don't think we are going anywhere, the way in which we live our life. So we are talking about meditation, mantra meditation, not just like some kind of an entertainment or whenever we get some time, we will chant some rounds. I don't think that's going to help. I'm not an expert. I have not perfected my life at all. I can tell you that, but I try. Okay, Hare Krishna. I think it is... Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful session. This is not a question, but more like a realization, and how I was able to resonate what Aruddha Mataji was saying. Reading Bhagavatam draws you towards the holy name. In my life, I have an elder one who's 16 now, Her journey, I would just wanted to share, like how she started off. She started off with Aruddha Mataji's Bhagavatam classes, which used to be like 3 times a week sometimes. And I'd say that played a very vital role in how she could pick up the chanting. Of course, she has her own struggles, her own baggage. So she's struggling to chant, but at least that initiated the chanting of the holy name. So just wanted to share.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, question to Premananda Mataji. You were you told like Monam, the let the whole world collapse, like through the example of Narottam Das Thakur and that example. So but with me or it happens with our handheld devices, sometimes because taste is not awakened, so we go to that, or sometimes even office calls because on-site offshore things is, I mean IT, so that thing comes, some call comes or other thing. So how to practically be away and focus totally absorbed in chanting, and how to cultivate that thing?
I don't think I can say what everyone should do, but my experience has been that it takes everybody, depending upon one's own sincere approach to doing this practice in a focused and concentrated way, there will be an inner call, or let us say an inclination will develop that we feel it within ourselves, that we are not doing this for somebody else's sake. And this is my duty at this point of time. And I have a relationship with Krishna, and it is a loving relationship. Supposing if you are talking with, say, a friend of yours, and 10 other people come, and you just neglect that friend and goes to talking to other people, and how will that friend feel? And then how much Krishna should feel? So these are things that one should feel within one's own self to be able to come to that point of excluding everything else. And I guess it is not going to happen overnight. And my own personal experience has been it has taken a long time. And there are those moments where you feel the deeper feelings about this, and then you will execute it. And the moment you don't execute it, and then you will sense that I'm not doing it, and then you self-correct. You have to do the course correction. And I guess that's what all of us have to do. And I'm continuously doing it. I'm sure everybody practicing seriously, they are all doing the same thing. We are not there. Anyways. Thank you all. I think we had, thank you all for your attention. And I think the next, who? No, I don't think. Rasika Manjari.
Hare Krishna. I didn't have a question. I just genuinely wanted to express a certain appreciation for all three of you as you were sharing. Mother Premananda first, as you were sharing, I know you personally, but I didn't know so many of these other details from your, the earlier part of your life. And I was marveling at, the strength and the dedication and the steadiness of commitment comes from that lifelong search, and perhaps many lifetimes before that. But I was just marveling at that. Thank you so much for sharing. And Krsnarcana Mataji, Subal Prabhu recently shared when he came home, his retraining of the mind, and I was appreciating what you were sharing too. It reminded me of Queen Kunti, hey, this dishonor is actually welcome because it is my opportunity to go deeper in the holy name, So thank you so much for sharing that as well. And Aruddha Mataji, I don't know you personally, but I hear about you. And I was so fascinated how you could share so openly, that vulnerable space you were in, where you're folding your clothes and you're chanting, when everybody around the world, looks up to you as this epitome of perfect practice in, bringing up your children perfectly. And it's very comforting to know that it's a process. So I genuinely relished the session, and I'm so grateful to you all for sharing so openly. Thank you.
I think the public introspection has its good and bad about it. If anybody got something good out of it, I think that's great, right? Aruddha Mataji, Krsnarcana. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. And it's a great pleasure. Krishna has given us this nice, beautiful temple room, and what is a better place to be. And so I think somebody is supposed to do kirtan now. I don't know who that is. Oh, there. Yeah. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
So at noon, we have Kirtan led by Kalpataru Mataji. 1 o'clock is lunch. And 2 o'clock, please come back to the temple room for a session by Paramarupa Prabhu. And Prabhu asks you to bring a cell phone along with a bead bag. So